It's time for really quick equity and excellence in teaching tips. I am your host, Michelle Singh, an educator, professor, author, student, and mother. I'm happy to share this topic from the Equal methodology, which is a framework for diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. So let's get right into our conversation. Today more than ever, our students need a safe space to learn. Similarly, we need safe spaces to teach. That's where culture and climate comes in. Of course, we hear about culture and climate, school culture, climate, classroom culture, climate often, but the thing is they get used interchangeably, and the difference between the two is something that we really need to understand. I remember having students who seemed to have a whole different personality in one class versus another. I saw my own daughter do this in her classes. And when I asked her why she was more silent in some of her settings and more outgoing in others, her explanations pointed to her feelings of belonging in those classes. So the ones where she felt more safe and more welcomed and more valued, she was more outgoing and motivated and engaged versus the others where she clammed up. So the question is, how do schools create these safe spaces for all of their students? Well, it starts with the culture first and then the climate. Kristen Copper says that the culture is the values and the beliefs behind the school. It's the mission statement. And then the climate reflects directly on the students and their relationship with the teachers and staff. Stand Tall Steve also says that the culture is about traditions and the climate is about feelings. So why must we understand the differences between culture and climate? Because success starts with a strong and healthy culture. The culture is the cornerstone of the school and the classrooms, right? The improvement of schools and the improvement of classrooms are dependent on the culture. Within the culture exist different climates, like the social climate and the intellectual or academic climate. So the culture is the cornerstone, the foundation. It is what the climate is built upon. So let's talk about three differences between culture and climate and how they look for us in our schools and our classrooms. So our first tip is, number one, culture influences climate. Both can be positive, both can be negative, both can help, both can hinder those involved in the school. So it's important for teachers to know, because this is important for teachers to know because the culture of the school directly impacts the climate where we have our, where we exist and where we want our students to flourish and where we want our students to excel, and also where our administrators, our colleagues, our parents, our families, and all of our stakeholders exist as well. So the climate is what we want to create, and the culture sets the foundation for that. Okay, so I want you to think about this. What's the feeling that you get when you walk into an office environment? Think of like a law firm. I only say a law firm because I've been binge watching Suits on Amazon. But think about the environment, what the feeling you get from the environment when you walk into like a law firm or even a medical facility. Okay, what words come to mind? Now, I want you to compare the feelings or those words that came to mind to what you feel when you walk into a fair or a party, right? The culture in these settings influence how you feel when you walk in. So the culture of the more serious law firm or, the cold hospital or the playful fair or the fun party influences how you feel when you're in these spaces, right? Absolutely. So that is why culture influences climate. Okay, so let's move on to tip number 2, which is that the culture is like character. Okay, it's grounded in the traditions and the rules and the norms and the values that affect how things are done. Like our character affects how we do things, right? Our values that we were taught by our parents and our families affect how we do things, right? So that's the culture. It's like character. So now with that understanding, think about the traditions and the values of your school. Consider things like the mission statement, right? Or the vision of your school. Those are those things that are set by leaders. Maybe some schools have annual goals and themes that they follow that are set by the administrators and the school leaders. The next thing I want you to do is reflect on how your classroom culture, right, aligns with the school's culture. This alignment is important because, remember, the culture influences the climate. So if you want to have, or if we want to have consistency for our students and even ourselves in our settings, there has to be alignment. If we want our school and our classroom cultures to promote certain qualities like equity and excellence, there must be alignment. If we want our schools to have a sustainable, positive culture, there must be alignment. And of course, this is easier said than done, and it does take a lot of work and accountability from the leadership and from the teachers and from all involved, but it is achievable because our success and the success of our students hinges on the culture that we create and the alignment with the school culture, okay? All right, now we're gonna move on to tip number 3. Climate is about how stakeholders feel and act as a result of the long-term values that exist in the culture, right? So if you were to name the characteristics of the culture in your school or even your classroom, like what would they be? Is community valued? Is curiosity valued? Is risk-taking valued? Is creativity valued? Is compassion valued? Is empathy valued, right? Is reflective thinking valued? So think back to what values your schools are grounded in, and do your classroom values align with those? My daughter attended an international baccalaureate elementary school, and the IB profiles, the international baccalaureate profiles, were part of the culture of the school. And the teachers were all aligned to those cultures, meaning they aligned their classroom culture to those IB learner profiles. And some of those learner profiles of being inquirers, knowledgeable thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk takers, balanced, and reflective. So those are the IB profiles, right? And the teachers in the school all aligned to those profiles. So my daughter attended this school for grades K through 5. And I will tell you that I did see consistency in how those profiles showed up in every classroom that she was a part of, in the projects and the assignments and the activities that were part of the school. So the point that I'm making here is the importance of understanding that school culture and aligning it with your classroom culture brings consistency, it brings commitment, and it brings success, right? So we are at the end of our discussion about some of the differences between culture and climate in schools and classrooms and their influence on students and teachers and stakeholders. I think that you'll agree that the culture and the climate impact the actions and the beliefs and the behaviors of all stakeholders involved in the school. So why not take a closer look at your culture? You can do so by describing the culture and the climate in your school and your classroom and its impact on you, your students, and your stakeholders. The next move is on you. So let's put these ideas to work. Take time to implement and time to reflect. And don't forget to join the conversation. I invite you to share your thoughts and progress with our community online at LCT-E Learning. You may even use the hashtag #LearnWithLCT-E. We look forward to engaging with you. Thank you for watching.